But let's get straight to the point. There's only one winner in this scenario, and that's Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He's a liar, a performer, and a two-tier leader who has lost touch with the very people he's supposed to serve. Keir Starmer's name dominates the headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. For many, his leadership has become synonymous with broken promises, rising discontent, and a growing disconnect from the public. Before we move on, let me ask you for a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you are watching without subscribing. It costs you nothing and makes a huge difference to us. So did you click that subscribe button? Great, thank you. Now, back to the matter at hand. Ever since the budget was unveiled, it became painfully obvious that the financial strategies in place are utterly unsustainable. The inheritance tax debates highlight that the money just isn't there, especially for those in the farming sector. Critics have painted a damning picture of Starmer, accusing him of lacking any independent vision. Instead of offering bold, transformative leadership, he appears to follow a script dictated by unseen influencers. Some even suggest that his policies serve a hidden agenda aimed at consolidating power rather than addressing the real concerns of everyday Britons. Starmer supporters claim he's a steady hand in turbulent times, but his detractors see him as an authoritarian figure, silencing dissent to maintain control. I'm genuinely beginning to think that Keir Starmer's days must be numbered. I can't see any scenario in which he leads his party into the next election, and the growing support for Reform UK is a clear indicator of this shift. The question remains, is his leadership truly progressive, or is it driving the country toward further division? Public discontent with Starmer's leadership has reached a boiling point. Citizens are speaking out against what they perceive as widespread injustice under his government. From economic struggles to a justice system that seems to erode trust, the cracks in his leadership are becoming impossible to ignore. Critics argue that Starmer has failed to address key issues plaguing the country. Crime rates are soaring, with violent incidents making headlines daily. His dismissive stance regarding calls for a full inquiry into grooming gangs, now correctly referred to as rape gangs, has infuriated the public. Claiming that those demanding accountability are merely jumping on the bandwagon of the far right is a gross miscalculation. The vast majority of people in this country are absolutely mortified. Ordinary Britons feel abandoned by a government that seems more focused on political maneuvering than on solving real problems. Take the growing disparity between how the justice system handles dissenters and actual crime. Peaceful protesters, journalists, and social media users are being targeted for expressing their opinions, while serious offences go unchecked. This imbalance has led many to question whether the government's priorities truly align with the needs of its people. Let's remind ourselves of Starmer's justification for not holding an inquiry into these heinous crimes. He has the audacity to say that not once in 8 years did anyone raise the issues he's now faced with. This is a blatant attempt to deflect responsibility, and it's infuriating. As calls for his resignation grow louder, protesters gather outside Parliament demanding accountability and justice. Social media is ablaze with criticism as hashtags like #StarmerResign and #JusticeForBritain trend daily. For many, this isn't just about a single leader, it's about a system that seems to have lost its way. While public frustration grows, a new political movement is gaining traction. Reform UK, once considered a fringe party, is now capturing the attention of disillusioned voters across the country. For the first time in British political history, Nigel Farage and Reform UK have topped the national polls, sharing first place with the Labour Party at 25%, 5 points clear of Starmer and the Conservatives. This poll, conducted by a respected firm, has dropped a bombshell in Westminster. Their message of transparency, accountability, and genuine reform resonates with people who feel betrayed by the current government. Reform UK's leaders have been vocal in their criticism of both Labour and the Conservatives, positioning themselves as the party that truly listens to the people. Their proposals, which include reforming the justice system, prioritising free speech, and addressing the cost of living crisis, have struck a chord with many. Town halls and public meetings hosted by Reform UK are drawing record crowds, with voters eager to hear an alternative vision for the country. The fear isn't just limited to political discourse, it's spilling over into how law enforcement operates. Under Starmer's leadership, the focus seems to have shifted from protecting the public to enforcing political agendas. Peaceful protesters are met with harsh penalties, while acts of violence often go unpunished. This is not a law-free zone, it's a chilling reminder that dissent is being criminalized. Moreover, the perceived erosion of free speech is alarming. The ability to speak freely and challenge authority is a fundamental right, yet critics argue that this right is under attack. The recent case of journalist Alison Pearson, scrutinized for a year-old social media post, symbolizes a troubling trend of political policing where dissenting voices are silenced to maintain control. Everyday citizens are increasingly cautious about what they post online, worried that a stray comment could lead to severe backlash. The cover-ups from the police and social services, coupled with political negligence from both Conservative and Labour governments, have resulted in inquiries that are nothing more than whitewashing. There needs to be a full public inquiry to uncover the truth about the extent of these failures. The growing unrest in the UK transcends Starmer's leadership. It's about preserving the nation's democratic values. The right to free speech, open debate, and fair treatment under the law are cornerstones of British society, yet under Starmer's rule, these values feel increasingly threatened. The British public is fighting back. From grassroots movements to rising political parties like Reform UK, the demand for change is clear. The nation is calling for leaders who will listen to the people, prioritize their needs, and protect their rights. This fight is a powerful reminder that democracy is not guaranteed, it must be defended. The question now is whether Britain's leaders will rise to the challenge or continue down a path that risks alienating the very people they serve. Starmer rose to power on a wave of promises that resonated with the British public, yet many are now asking, where are the results? The time for change is now. The nation deserves leaders who will prioritize justice, fairness, and accountability. As public dissatisfaction grows, the calls for new leadership become impossible to ignore. Will the nation's leaders listen, or will they continue to turn a blind eye to the cries for change? If you believe these conversations are important, make your voice heard. Subscribe to this channel for more in-depth analysis and updates. Together, we can stay informed, ask the tough questions, and demand the accountability our nation deserves.